What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my Week 6 top 20 quarterback rankings. Went through the running backs and wide receivers yesterday. I'll also have the tight ends and defenses coming out later today. But let's just dive right into Tier 1, and this is going to be a one-man tier with Josh Allen. This has typically been the Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson tier. Still not expecting Lamar to return here in Week 6, so it's just going to be Josh Allen. We do have some other quarterbacks kind of nipping at his heels, but Josh Allen is still the quarterback 1 in points per game, and he is still my clear-cut top option at the quarterback position. Moving into Tier 2, going to start it off with Patrick Mahomes going up against the Lions, and it is really looking like this is going to be a bounce-back season for Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, he had the amazing start to his NFL career, obviously fantasy also. Last couple of seasons been pretty underwhelming, but we're seeing a ton of rushing upside. He's third at the quarterback position in rushing yards. He's put up 22 plus points in 4 of his 5 games this season. His best 2 performances have been back-to-back. So things are looking up here with Mahomes. You have Xavier Worthy back in the lineup. One more game without Rashee Rice, and then he'll be back. So Patrick Mahomes is definitely looking like a high-end QB1 moving forward. Then I have Jaden Daniels. Good to see him back out on the field in Week 5. Didn't have an amazing fantasy day, but I thought he looked good. Was using the legs, solid rushing production, solid matchup here against the Bears. They're allowing the 8th most points per game to the quarterback position. The Commanders have the 3rd highest implied point total. I'd feel very good firing up Jaden Daniels this week. And then my last Tier 2 quarterback, it is going to be Jalen Hurts going up against the Giants. Fine start to the season. He's the quarterback 6 in points per game. Very consistent, 19 plus points in 4 of his 5 matchups. Now shifting into Tier 3, still a lot of really quality options here. Going to start off with Drake May going up against the Saints. Now on the season, he is the quarterback 10 in points per game. From a fantasy perspective, didn't have the best outing against the Bills, but he kind of just got unlucky, right? Didn't hit in the touchdown department. Ramondre vultures a few touchdowns. But I think Drake May is playing at a very, very high level. I like the matchup here against the Saints. I think the Patriots are going to put up points. Drake May has that rushing upside. Really nice mid-tier QB1. Then I have Caleb Williams coming off his bye week. He's been super consistent, scored at least 17 points in all 4 of his games. The Commanders are allowing the 9th most points per game to the quarterback position. I think Caleb keeps it rolling here in Week 6. Then we have Baker Mayfield coming off a monster game against the Seahawks. He's the quarterback 5 in points per game. Really like him within this Tier 3 area. Like I said, huge Week 5, 29 of 33 passing for 379 yards. I think it was 2 or 3 passing touchdowns. So Baker's balling, really nice mid-tier QB1. And then the last guy in this tier is going to be Justin Fields. Now, this is a pretty tough matchup here against the Broncos. They're allowing the 3rd fewest points per game to the quarterback position. The Jets have the 5th lowest implied point total. But when we look at Justin Fields' 3 full games, the dude is balling. He put up 29.5, 27.1, and then 25.9 points. Obviously, he did kind of play into the 4th quarter in the game where he was concussed, so that one wasn't going to be great, but the consistent rushing upside is there. They've been good at getting garbage time points, so even in a tough matchup, I still like Justin Fields this week as a pretty solid quarterback play. Now moving into Tier 4, kind of like our back-end QB1s, high-end QB2s, going to start off with Justin Herbert. Really strong start to the season, kind of cooled off a little bit over the last few weeks, but I do think this is a prime bounce back opportunity. The Dolphins are allowing the 3rd most points per game to the quarterback position. Unfortunately, this offense just keeps taking hits. Obviously, you lose the 2 stud tackles. Now, Amarian Hampton goes on IR. Najee's already out for the season. So I do think they're going to continue to rely on the passing game, Herbert's arm. The strength of this team right now is probably just at the quarterback position. And then, the wide receiver room with Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston. So I think Justin Herbert can have a nice bounce back here in Week 6. Then I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford, who has been absolutely balling out over the last couple of games. In his last 2, he has thrown for 375 yards and 3 touchdowns, and then 389 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then matchup-wise, this is just a great spot here against the Ravens. They're allowing the 2nd most points per game to the quarterback position. I do think you can make a case for Matthew Stafford being higher. The issue with Stafford, though, is that he is just very reliant on actually hitting in the passing touchdown department because he gives you literally nothing on the ground. So Stafford could play extremely well, have a great game, throw for 300 yards, but if you have Kyron Williams vulturing near the goal line, then it doesn't lead to the best fantasy day. With that being said, he's my quarterback 10. Still think he's a very startable option this week. And then another guy, kind of a similar story, back-to-back really strong passing performances, doesn't have a ton of rushing upside. It is Dak Prescott going up against the Panthers. Last 2 weeks, thrown for 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then 237 yards and 4 touchdowns. Think he keeps it rolling here against the Panthers. Then I'm going to go with Jordan Love going up against the Bengals. Love's been solid for fantasy. He's the quarterback 14 in points per game. The Packers have the highest implied point total this week. I think they're going to blow out the Bengals. If they're blowing them out, Jordan Love probably going to have a pretty decent day. Then I've got Daniel Jones going up against the Cardinals. On the season, he is the quarterback 12 in points per game. Has kind of cooled off. Really strong week 1. Week 2, under 17 points in his last 3 games, but he's still been fine. It's not like he's just completely flopping in your lineup. Pretty neutral matchup here going up against the Cardinals. And then the last guy in this tier is going to be Bo Nix. This is a pretty decent matchup. The Jets are allowing the 6th most points per game to the quarterback position. The Broncos have the 8th highest implied point total. And then Bo Nix has logged back-to-back solid games, really with the exception of week 1. He's been a very solid fantasy quarterback. Now moving into tier 5, I'm going to start off this tier with Jared Goff going up against the Chiefs. Not the best matchup. This is pretty in line with where Jared Goff has been on the season. He's ranked as quarterback 15. He is the quarterback 15 in points per game. I will say they're 2.5-point dogs. So from a game script perspective, this could be interesting. Probably not going to be like a, icing the game with Gibbs and Montgomery. We could see a decent amount of passing volume. I think high-end QB2 is a fair spot. Then I'm going to go with McCorkle going up against the Buccaneers. This is a good matchup on paper. The Bucs are allowing the 5th most points per game to the quarterback position. I don't think the 49ers are going to rush Brock Purdy back. They've already tried it, and, the toe got re-messed up. Max coming in, he's playing well, coming off a game where he attempted 49 passes, threw for 342 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, me having him ranked here is definitely, the assumption that he's going to get at least 1 or 2 of these weapons back. So whether that's Ricky Pearsall and or Jawan Jennings, ideally he has those weapons. If all of those guys are still out, then I probably bump him down at least a few spots. Then I have Kyler Murray going up against the Colts. Kyler's just kind of been a bummer. Like, he hasn't been awful. He hasn't killed you really in any given week if you started him, but he hasn't scored over 19 points. Also hasn't scored under 14, but there's just been no pop, no upside out of Kyler from a fantasy perspective. Then a guy who did have some pop in week 5, it is Trevor Lawrence going up against the Seahawks. I think the most important thing we saw from T-Law in that week 6 game was him actually using his legs. Trevor Lawrence is a very athletic, mobile quarterback. We had pretty much seen 0 rushing upside through the first 4 games. He goes out in week 5, 10 carries for 54 yards, and then 2 touchdowns on the ground. Also, very easily could have been 3. He was like literally an inch away from getting that 4th and goal over the goal line there. So could have been an even bigger day for Trevor Lawrence. I think this Jaguars offense is just going to continue to steadily improve. Right now, like a mid-tier QB2 option. And then actually in that same matchup, we have Sam Darnold going up against the Jaguars. Seahawks, 1.5-point dogs. Some of the game scripts early on in the season haven't been great for Darnold, where they're kind of leading by so much that they don't have to put a ton of pressure on him and, rack up a ton of passing volume. In this game, they actually might have to. They did in week 5, and Sam Darnold, for the most part, delivered 341 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. And then the final guy in this tier, it's going to be Bryce Young going up against the Cowboys. Bryce Young obviously doesn't feel great to play him for fantasy, but this is just a really nice matchup here against the Cowboys. They're allowing the most points per game to the quarterback position. The Panthers actually have a pretty respectable 23 implied points. So Bryce Young going to wrap it up here as our quarterback 20. But that is going to wrap it up for the rankings. If you guys enjoyed, hit the like button, subscribe. Questions, comments, feel free to drop them down below. Thank you all for stopping by. Stay tuned for the other rankings, and I will see you guys in the next one.